Hey guys, it's Kels back at it again with another video, another Friday Night Live. I promised you that each and every Friday night of 2022 I would go live. This year has been a little bit different. It's been a little bit sporadic, but tonight I felt like I had to come on and show my face, reconnect with the collective because there's been so much going on. And I just felt it only right to come back on, share a little bit about what I've been going through. As you can see in the title, I've been going through it. And just learn from the collective wisdom of the It's Kells community as we do occasionally on our Friday night lives, on our Friday night kickbacks. Let me check the feed to make sure everything is coming in good. I am using a little bit of a different setup tonight, and I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me and see me properly. So let me check this out. You guys can hear me and see me properly. So let me check this out. It's seeming like you can. Oops. Yes, it's seeming like you can hear me and see me properly. Yes. So if at any point during the live the feed starts getting crazier, you can't hear me, let me know and we'll get that situated. There we go. So anyway, guys. Yeah, I wanted to reconnect with the collective. I feel like I'm a little bit rusty because when you don't go live or when you don't put out YouTube videos consistently, then you do get a little bit rusty to get back in front of, the collective. But I didn't want to overplan. I didn't want to overthink it. I got the inspiration to come on, and so I was like, all right, just pop on live, talk to your people down. They already know what's up, and your longtime subbies and people are part of the replay gang, and the new people will all relate, and they are welcome to join what we're talking about tonight. So, you guys know normally at the top of the broadcast, we say, come on in, come on in, come on in. Let me know where you are watching from and what you are sipping on in the comments. Don't be shy. Go ahead and chime in and shout yourself out and let me know where you're watching from and what you're sipping on. Now, tonight, I'm sipping on two little things. I'm sipping on two little things because you guys know that I love to keep the throat chakra lubricated. And when we're keeping the chakra lubricated and the third eye wide open, we're sipping on some lemon water. Always and forever, top tier lemon water. But tonight, they said Jesus turned water into wine. So Kels did the same thing. I got a little red wine in the cup, just a little splash, just a little splash to wet the whistle. You know what I'm saying? Just a little splash. But I think it's all about balance. It's all about equilibrium. It's all about harmony. So I feel good. I feel good with the lemon water, okay, and the infused lemon water, and I'm feeling good with the little sip of red wine. You know what I mean? It's after 7 o'clock. It's probably about 8 o'clock. This is my little happy hour on live with you guys and a little sip of red wine. Cheers! Clink, 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 clink. Hmm. Lil Ernest, Atlanta in the house, Atlanta in the building, of course, of course. Love that for us. Love that for us. Okay. So, what you sipping on, Lil Ernest? What you sipping on? Anyway, so yeah, so I'm sipping on a little red wine tonight just to wet the whistle a little bit. But you guys typically know that it's all about the lemon water for the doll. Okay. Oh, not soft life. Jazz in the building. Hey, Jazz. Hey, girl. Hey. Okay. So I hope you guys are not let me make sure my volume is down on this side because I don't want you guys to hear the feedback. But I am using a little bit of a different setup. So let me know if you could hear me, you can see me okay. And with that being said, I'll tailor it to whatever. So, guys, it's been a while since I've been on live, but as I said at the top of the broadcast, I wanted to come on, show my face, let you guys know that you are not out here alone in this crazy living, loving, leveling up world right now. I've been feeling it heavy. And that was one of the main reasons why I decided to come on live because I felt like, you know what, let me share a little bit of my experience with what's been going on lately over the past probably 10 to 15 days. low key, high key, since Mercury retrograde, you guys know I do pay attention to what's happening in the cosmos, in astrology, because I do believe that what happens with the moon, particularly what happens with the planets, does affect us here on Earth. It does play up on our emotions and how we feel about things and how we respond to things. And so I like to pay attention to what's happening in the cosmos so that I know that my reactions are not 100% crazy. Because the dog can be a little, I can go off on my little tangents and things like that. But if it's not something, ladies, if it's not something hormonal or anything like that, then definitely realize that if the moon can govern the tides here on Earth, the water, the beaches, the tides, the waters here on Earth, and we're 70 to 80 to 90% water by makeup, by cellular makeup, then please believe that that pulling and pushing on the tides in the ocean can also affect the pulling and the pushing of the water in our bodies and our emotions and our connectivity to the deepness, the depths of human experience and human life. So, little Ernest said he got a cup full of Henny. All I need is Henny and a plan B. Y'all know Sukihana? She a little ratchet. But the doll is well versed on everything from bougie to bougetto to ratchet. Henny and a plan B. If y'all ain't heard that, y'all need to look that up. Sounds perfect. Brilliant. 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 I'm working with the little uh ear iPhone AirPod situation. So I'm hoping that the voice is coming through warm and direct and engaging because that's my intention for the sound of tonight's broadcast. Another intention that you guys know at the top of the broadcast, I always love to set a little bit of intention for our time here together in this space, in this vibration, set the energy here for our Friday night kickbacks with the collective. And I think the intention for tonight is what is my intention for tonight? My intention for tonight is clarity, calm, and confidence. Clarity, calm, and confidence as we step forward onto new paths, onward and upward, um, into new destinies and to new chapters in life. So clarity, calm, and confidence. Somebody want to write that in the chat for me? Clarity, calm, and confidence on a new path, stepping onto our new chapters in life. You guys also know, you may or may not know if you're new around here, whenever I go live, I do take a moment of quiet introspection. I do turn my gaze inward, meaning instead of frantically moving outward and performing, I calm and settle myself a bit. And I do ask the divine to deliver to me what needs to be said for my own ears to say, for my own throat chakra to express, and for what you guys need to hear and what needs to be delivered to the collective. That way, we know that anything that is said here is said with the intention of the divine and not just personal agenda. Okay. I do like to say, well, it's what I wanted to talk about, but it's always in co creation and collaboration with the divine. Cheers. Clink, 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 clink. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, as I was saying, there's been a couple of things that have been happening celestially. It's a couple of things that have been happening in the cosmos with the planets and with the sun and with the moon recently that I feel like really kind of has impacted my experience. And I feel like because we're part of this collective, whether we're talking about the IT'S KELLS Collective or we're just talking about the human experience and the human collective, I feel like if one of us is going through it, a lot of us are going through it. And the things that I've been watching closely and looking at a lot of the gurus and looking at a lot of the learned and educated people in this space, what they have been talking about recently, having to do with the cosmos and astrology, has been the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. I believe the moon was in Scorpio when we had a lunar eclipse on May 5th. And then we also had a solar eclipse sometime in April. I want to say around the 20s or the teens of April. And then we also are having, oh my gosh, I lost my track. Wait, so we had the solar eclipse, and then we had a lunar eclipse. And so these eclipses, if just to drop a little background on those, eclipses are big times of change, and they're also like stepping through portals and stepping forward onto new paths and onto new timelines. And so this can manifest as huge changes in your life. This can manifest as huge changes in your family life, huge tower moments. A tower moment is when a little bit of upheaval happens in your life or somebody closer to you or in the world that demands a change to take place and are unavoidable. And so these solar eclipses and these lunar eclipses that been experiencing lately have been fast moving energy and fast moving change and trajectory, and have been a bit demanding, a bit like draped. You know my background is Jamaican, right? And so somebody from Jamaica or from the Caribbean would say, when somebody grabs you like this, they drape you. I don't know how you call that, jacked up. In Miami, we normally would call that, oh, he jacked them up, he jacked her up, he jacked him up, meaning they draped you. And I feel like these energies that we've been experiencing, particularly having to do with the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse, most recently on May 5th in Scorpio, which is like deep, 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 have really been demanding and draping us, just draping us and dragging us every which way. Now, if you have been in the center, if you have been doing your meditations, if you have been, whatever uh, well-being and wellness work that you've been doing on yourself, if you've been doing it, then you may feel it a little bit. If you haven't been doing any wellness work, if you haven't been taking care of your spirituality, if you haven't been taking care of your body or what you're eating or your sleeping patterns or your emotions or your therapy or your mental health, if you haven't been taking care of any of that, believe this whole time period, probably all of April and all of May, has probably been sheer upheaval in your life. I'm not even gonna hold you. You ain't even got to drop nothing in the comments. Just know for yourself if you've been feeling like, yo, what is going on? You probably been going through this time period not tightening up your alignment, your mental, your physical, and your spiritual alignment, that triangulation. But if you have been doing the work, you probably have still felt a little something. I felt a little rocky because I stay in my spiritual bag. I stay in my alignment bag. You know what I mean? And I still felt a lot of upheaval, especially when Mercury retrograde hit. Now, Mercury retrograde hit at the end of April, and I'm so sorry I do not have the specific dates for you, but after the live, I will drop the specific dates of the solar eclipse, the Mercury retrograde, and the lunar eclipse, which have all been between April and May. I will drop the specific dates of that in the comments, and I'll make it a pinned comment so you know my dates are accurate. I just don't have them off the top of my head. But if you have been in your spiritual bag, you probably still felt a little bit uncertain. You probably still felt a little bit like, yo, what's all this? Why am I dreaming all of this? Why am I experiencing these same old patterns, these same old behaviors, these same old triggers? I had thought I had worked through this trigger. I thought I wouldn't worry about this trigger no more. And here this trigger come right back. Triggered. You know what I mean? Fighting with yourself, struggling in resistance to the trigger. It's because of Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury retrograde, similar to the eclipses, the solar and the lunar eclipses, re- pulls in, calls in change. But the specifics of Mercury retrograde is that it makes you revisit issues that you've had in the past to see how far you've come in your growth, in your spiritual growth, in your mental growth, in your physical growth, in your transcendence of the issue. You may have noticed that the same triggers with your family have come up recently. The same triggers with your fitness have come up recently. The same triggers in your workplace maybe have reemerged. You thought you went to mediation. You thought you had it settled. You thought it was all good, and here it come right back. You know what I mean? And Mercury retrograde does that because it wants to display and to show to you, seeing 444 on the clock if you're into numbers like I am. Mercury retrograde wants to display to you how far you've come in your growth for a particular area in your life. And so for me specifically, this usually has to do with family for me. Okay. But I'll get into that a little bit later in the broadcast. Okay. Seeing DB in the building. Congratulations are in order. I believe DB he's been made a, what do they call that? An honest man. He's married now. Clap, cheers, clink, 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 clink. Congratulations. He's made an honest man of himself. He is now married. Congratulations. So excited. And we celebrate you and your beautiful new wife. And we bless you and we bless your union now and into the future. Cheers again. So excited. So exciting. hmm So, so Mercury retrograde has definitely been playing a little bit of a number on me. And it took me a couple of days to uh, decompress from all of the kind of internal stuff that I'd been dealing with. And so coming out of it, I said, all right, let me share what some of the notes that I have in my phone. And they're not fully fleshed out, right? Because sometimes I come to the collective and it's been a week and I've fully fleshed out whatever I've been thinking about and feeling and kind of feeling into for the collective. And sometimes I come to you guys with things that are just fresh and new because we're learning from the collective wisdom of the IT'S KELLS community. So I come to share these experiences with you because, as I said, I really feel like if one of us is experiencing this, this is a common experience and it's not just an isolated issue. All right. So, all right. So where do I go? Where do I go? Okay. So I think one of the first things, let me take a sip. I think one of the first things that I kind of want to acknowledge and recognize, and this may be an experience of yours, is that I felt before I was fully triggered, before I was fully triggered, I felt momentum was picking up. So to me, momentum is like, how do I explain that? You ever get the feeling that something's gonna happen? A lot of times, and this is kind of a negative connotation, but a lot of times it feels like ish is about to hit the fan. Like you know something's coming, but you don't exactly know what it is. And those who are optimistic and more like the sun, they usually like, "Oh, I feel like I'm about to win money, or I'm about to get a promotion, or something's ooh, I'm about to get a present, or somebody's about to surprise me, or I feel like something's coming." And you can go on the positive side of things, and you feel energy coming towards you in some way. And then those of us who are a little bit negative, like, "Oh Lord, somebody about to call me and give me some bad news. Oh my God, I feel like somebody about to die. Oh my God, I don't know. Please come home. I don't have a good feeling about this." And so those are on two ends of the spectrum. It's like when you sense something is coming in, when you sense a heightened feeling, when you sense a heightened sensitivity, this is when I say, to me, it's like, oh, momentum is picking up. There's more attention, there's more eyes, there's more uh, energy flowing in a particular direction that I can sense. And so that's what I mean when I say, ooh, momentum is picking up. Momentum is picking up. You are most welcome, DB. Congrats again. And so that's what I was sensing first and foremost. And so this was probably about a week into Mercury retrograde because I believe we're on to week 3 of Mercury retrograde. And I believe it's going to be finished on the 15th, which is on Monday, May 15th. And then we'll go into a little bit of a shadow period and then we'll be free of it until I believe September when it comes back around. Now, let me just say this little caveat. A lot of people be freaking out about Mercury retrograde. And most times Mercury retrograde be fine for me. It's usually that's when they say, oh, don't sign any contracts, don't get into any new relationships, don't start nothing new. There's a lot of things that people say about Mercury retrogrades that I don't necessarily uh, abide by or believe in. I think if you've been living your life a certain way and you have your routines and you're okay, then you can just usually power through Mercury retrogrades, and you might get little things like little technology issues or little travel issues or something like a flat tire or something little. I ended up with a burst pipe. You know what I mean? And so some little tiny things like that. But for the most part, your Mercury retrogrades, uh, your Mercury retrogrades can be a little bit of a smooth sailing. You know what I mean? But this time for me, it was super heavy. And I believe for me, it was because of the coupling of the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio moon. If you know anything about Scorpios, I'm going to just leave it there. So it was the lunar eclipse in Scorpio and the Mercury retrograde, as well as I believe the energy of the Taurus season, which we are in for May, was really about family and kind of rehashing issues and triggers having to do with familial circumstances. And so that kind of mix and concoction for this period of time really played a number on me. You know what I mean? And so I think the first thing I noticed was momentum was picking up. Things were getting fast. And while you can be on the positive side of that, or you can be on the negative side of that, anytime there's any change like that, your central nervous system, your mind can start feeling a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of panic because your mind and your central nervous system is not 100% great with change. Whether it be a great change or not so great change, a lot of times you're not so well equipped to handle that change because we're just, you know, change, in olden days or in olden times in our makeup as human beings, change was not always the best situation. Stability and sameness was a little bit more safe in times when things were a little bit harder, earlier in our evolution as human beings. But now we deal with so much technology change, AI this, AI that, NFTs this, Bitcoin that, government this, government that, rumors of war, new king, new queen, we deal with change so much now that our bodies have a hard time catching up with the speed in which modern day life, is progressing. And so when this momentum is picking up and you can sense something is happening, a lot of times you can get very anxious and anxiety, and your nervousness can play up on you, especially if you haven't been catering to it. And I feel like that is whenever that happens, that is a prime time for you to start self-sabotaging. It's a prime time for you to let old distractions and old triggers start playing on you. And so it was just a confluence, a stacking of a bunch of things having to do with Mercury retrograde, with the family, pulling up old patterns and seeing if you know how to deal with them. If you've been putting in the work, like you've been pretending like you're putting in the work, you know what I mean? And stacking and bringing kind of this heightened energy and this heightened sensitivity in to myself. And I don't know, you guys let me know if you've been experiencing it as well. And it may not be for family issues for you. It may be in any circumstance. Depends. Yeah. So also I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. A little respiratory cold. And I think the pollen from the spring is still a little bit much for me as well. A little inflammation going on. So I've been keeping it low key and easy and smooth the last few days because I'm in bed ridden to be 100% honest with you. So that's why it's a little more bass in the voice today, but I know y'all don't mind. So this time period felt like it was really, really easy to self-sabotage and really easy to be drawn into old distractions as Mercury retrograde amplified that and drawn into old triggers. And so that was kind of the first thing that I noticed. Um, and then going from there, my routines and my schedule got pulled away from me because I had family visiting and I had situations that I needed to handle that were outside of my tried and true daily routines. And so, in order to keep stable and aligned, I have these routines in place, these systems in place, this kind of masculine structure to my life that allows my inner empress, my inner child, and my inner creative to play, these structures, the stability helps me to stay on track. And I get to have a little fun between that. But, I have my daily routines, my daily meditation practice, depending on the day, my workout, my yoga, my lifting, you know what I mean? My time to work. Last year, you guys know every Friday night I would go live. So that was like a structure that I put in place last year. And so it was a little bit disrupted. It was a little bit disrupted because I have family in town. I was called to do, voluntold to support this and voluntold to support that, and did it willingly, but almost didn't have a choice in it because that's just who I am. I'm not gonna abandon my family. But this caused a little bit of an amplification of the nervousness. So the momentum of the energy of things shifting with the astrology and with the solar eclipses and the lunar eclipses and the Mercury retrograde, and then the family in town, and then the disruption of my daily routines and my masculine structure in place that keeps me grounded and keeps me on track. All of that kind of threw me into a little bit of a disarray this week, or it's probably been 15 days. And so I just ended up getting sick, ended up having things like a burst. Oh, that was my ice maker. Had a pipe burst in my house. All these little things that normally my life would be seamless and kind of running on, this nice little autopilot. All these things happen because the energy is just moving so fast. It was hard for me to ground. It was hard for me to keep my confidence, clarity, and what was the three C's we said at the top of the broadcast? Confidence, clarity, and ooh, confidence, clarity, and I blanked out. I don't even know but we had 3 C's setting the intention for this broadcast at the top. So I'll pin that in the comments as well. And so, that's kind of what I was experiencing this week. And it takes a while. You kind of have to go through it. You kind of have to I found myself isolating. I found myself being easily triggered. I found myself being on edge. I found myself a little bit ill, having to kind of cope with all of this little bit of upheaval that was taking place in the doll's life. And I was like, all right, let me come in a collective and talk to you guys because I know probably some of y'all have been experiencing something similar. Or if you ain't experienced it this week, it was last week. If you ain't experienced it last week, it's going to be next week. But that's how this earth thing goes. That's how this human thing goes. We all kind of experience very similar things, regardless of what it looks like on Instagram or on TikTok or on YouTube. Okay. And so that's kind of what I was experiencing. And today, just today, um, at the gym, actually, when I'm able to I did my lifting class and then I got on the treadmill. So I was a little bit zoned out, just listening to some things on YouTube and trying to get myself back into my alignment, trying to get my mental, physical, and spiritual triangulation back into sync. I was on the treadmill listening to things on some YouTube, and I realized that there were certain things that were really triggering me and really happening with me that I kind of want to discuss with you guys today. And I think one of the first things is letting go, getting the mind, a lot of it is mental things that you have to be able to identify and navigate through. Not immediately. You just might notice that you're moody or that you're irritated or something like that. And you have to give yourself a few days of going through that. But on the tail end of it, you realize, okay, what was going on? And I realized that one of the main things that was going on with me was that I was having a hard time uh, there was a little bit of a tension and maybe a little bit of a fear because I felt like I was being pulled and draped into this fast moving stream and this fast moving momentum. And at the beginning of it, I would not be able to articulate and identify that was happening to me. But after I went through it and I started to revisit, to take a moment of reflection, if you are on my Instagram page or if you're on my community tab here on YouTube, you've noticed that I've been putting out daily posts And one of the posts that go out on Sundays is our moment of reflection post. And so if you're into reflection and leveling up like I am, if that's something that interests you, then definitely hop on over to my Instagram, hop on over to the community tab here on YouTube, and just keeping a little eye on the daily content that's going out on those two spaces. You know what I mean? And so the moment of reflection after I took the couple days to just kind of a little bit isolate myself, low key, just like be like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to look at anything on Instagram. I don't want to respond to anything or anything like that. After I took a few days to do that, I then noticed like, oh, I may have been triggered by being called into responsibility with my family, but also feeling like I was being pulled away from the momentum that was draping me into a certain direction because I could feel the momentum and the change coming in for me. And that was already a lot to process and to deal with. And so to have to do that in the face of responsibility to my family, uh, caused a little bit of friction and misalignment for me, right? And so I felt like, there was some resistance there to the paths, the multiple paths that I had been called to inhabit. And I feel like that's a lot of adulting, right? It's having to juggle these conflicting responsibilities. The two of pentacles. It's having to eternally juggle these conflicting responsibilities and being able to do it with dignity and grace, but still feel your feelings. Still experience that I am tired. I am irritated. I feel like underappreciated or overutilized or stretched thin or being too much. Everybody asking for too much. You know what I mean? And so being able to still perform, still show up where you need to, but then also still acknowledge your feelings and still let it be okay that you feel those and knowing what tools to pull from your toolbox to soothe yourself back into your alignment. So if you're into Abraham Hicks, this is like being in stage 4 or 5, being in contrast, facing uh, grit, facing facing things that are not exactly ideally how you expect them to be. We're going to talk about expectation in a minute. Things not being how you expect them to be, but still understanding that that situation is serving you, and more than understanding that the situation and the grit and the discomfort is serving you. Not only is it serving you, it is not being upset with yourself for being upset about it, or not being upset with yourself for being in that state of contrast, for being in a rub, for being under pressure. Understanding that being in grace and joy and bliss and all of that serves you, as and rest and ease serves you, as well as being in struggle and contrast and trying and efforting and and going through it sometimes, not all the time, not the majority of the time, but sometimes. Abraham Hicks talks about it as being driving on the highway and veering slightly off onto the side of the road. When you're driving, in Atlanta, y'all know we got to be dodging potholes as far as the eye can see. But also, there's a rumble strip on the side of the road. So if you ever veer off the highway slightly, say you go to reach something or you go to slap one of them kids, or you paying attention to whoever's in the passenger seat for 1 second, seeing 333 on the clock if you're into numbers like I am, and you kind of veer off and you start hitting that brrr, brrr, brrr. Or if you have a car like mine where you start veering into the other lane and the steering wheel starts to vibrate a little bit, brrr, letting you know that you're veering off the path, seeing the contrast, seeing the hard times, seeing the moodiness or seeing the stress as just a slight early indication that you're a little bit off the path, not getting upset with the rumble strip, not getting upset with the vibration in the steering wheel, but just recognizing it as an indication that, oh, I'm veering a little bit too far in that direction. I'm veering a little bit too far in this direction. Let me bring my focus. Let me bring my gaze. Let me bring my attention back to the aligned path that I seek to occupy on a day to day and know that the rumble strip or the contrast or the discomfort is serving me in some way. It is the energetic ask of what you want. So the experience, Abraham talks about it in terms of if it's something that you don't like, it's making it clear what you do like. You know what I mean? It's one side of the, I don't know, pendulum or the lever or something like that. Hopefully that makes sense. And so I was definitely experiencing some contrast this week. Definitely experiencing some contrast and took a few days to get back on a path, and a few days looked like sleep. I don't usually sit on the couch and watch TV. I know a lot of people do that. I don't usually do that. If I'm in the house, I'm usually folding up laundry, cooking, uh, cleaning something, usually listening to something and moving my body, doing something around the house. But for the last couple of days, I actually sat my behind on the couch and looked at YouTube videos on my big screen. And it was because I felt like because the energy was moving so fast and I had so much responsibility that I just had finished and wrapped up, and things were changing so fast, I needed to keep myself calm so that I would be on the path of least resistance to what was coming in for me. So if I kept myself moving, if I kept myself in an angry mood, if I kept myself sick, if I kept myself in the mood that I was in previously, I would have been a blocker. I would have been resistance to the fast moving change that was coming in for me. And so instead I said, I need to rest. I need to sit my butt down. I need to quiet myself. I need to sleep. I need to sleep extra hours. I need to take myself out of the game a little bit and be receptive to what's coming in for me as opposed to go, 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 go. Okay. So that's kind of one of the methods that I did to deal with the discomfort that I was sensing and picking up on this week. We talked a little bit earlier about expectations, expectations. And that was one of the things that I think I had to deal with this week was allowing my mind to be flexible in its expectations. One of the people that I listened to on YouTube talked about it in terms of, excuse me, still got a little bit of cough. Let me take a sip. One of the people that I listen to regularly on YouTube said it this way: letting go of expectations and helping the mind grow in its flexibility and release of expectations without disappointment. And that's the part of that's the work for the mind, is to learning to be flexible, to letting go, and in my own words, was letting go of the fantasy of how you thought it would be or how you think it should have been. And I think a lot of the parts of the resistance and the discomfort that we feel a lot of times has a lot to do with expectations. Our mind expects things to go a certain way. It expects it to turn out a certain way. And when it doesn't, we have a little bit of a hard time. We have a little bit of a negative response. We have a little bit of a moodiness, of a little attitude, because we expected it to go a certain way. Whatever situation we're discussing, we expected it to go a certain way, and the thing didn't turn out the way we thought it was going to turn out. And so now we got an attitude, period. And that's okay, but understanding that the whole spiritual journey, the whole spiritual path is about helping and coaching your mind in its ability to be flexible. The reason why it's necessary for your mind and your expectations and your ideas to continually be flexible and to move is because your soul has a has a design for certain things that your mind can't always comprehend. In fact, most of the times your mind cannot comprehend it at all. Your mind is running on these kind of limited programs that your parents taught you, or that your parents' parents taught you, or that you've seen on movies, or that you've seen some podcast, some bro podcast said, or some divine podcast said, or something Kel said, running on these very limited programmings that don't support the vast hugeness of your soul's plan for you. Now, there is a soul plan, but there you're in co-creation. You're in co-creation with that soul plan. And so there is a necessity for your mind to be able to be quick and to be logical and to calculate and to strategize. But just as much as those things are important for your mind, it's for your mind in support and in co-creation with your soul, it's also important for your mind to know when to stand down because your soul is in command. And so you have to trust the command of your soul. You have to grow in your journey and grow in your ability to trust when your soul is in charge and let your mind serve your soul as opposed to your mind trying to be the full on captain. So that's one of the things that I feel like I was dealing with this week is that I had certain expectations of certain situations. I had certain expectations of certain people that I had to learn to let go of. Let go of the expectations. When especially when you're being draped and called into a new chapter, an elevated chapter, something greater than you could ever comprehend, that you have to bravely step into. And bravely means that you have to trust your soul's command as well and use your mind to execute what your soul is telling you. Cheers. Clink, clink, clink. So, other things that are on my notes. Letting go of the fantasy of what you thought it would be or should be. This happens a lot. A lot of us feel or wish that we had certain type of parents. A lot of us feel or wish that we should have had certain type of lifestyle. Yep, my parents used to be rich when I was little, but now they spent all the money, now I'm broke. I should have been rich. I should have had this handed to me. I should have had that. I should have been entitled to this. I should have been at that school. I should have been at that job. I should have been at this body weight. I should have been with him. I should have been with her. My family life should have been this way. Why wasn't it? Why me? A lot of fantasies and expectations of what it should have been as opposed to gratitude for what it is and will be and playing the cards that you've been dealt, not whining about the hand, right? And so that's another part of allowing your mind to be flexible, especially when a lot of things are changing. You know what I mean? Letting go of the fantasy of what you thought it should be and looking and feeling for what is unfolding. Not what is, because that kind of limits what you're looking at, but just sensing for, ooh, what's unfolding and trying to sense it in the affirmative. Something's changing here. Let me set the intention that this change is for the better, that it's for the good, that everything always works out for me, that I'm excited for what's happening next. The better it gets, the better it gets. The better it gets, the better it gets. The better it gets, the better it gets. Everything always works out for me. All is well. Smooth sailing. Smooth sailing. These are things that you can, stories you can tell yourself. Stories you can tell yourself that help you set the intention, like we do at the top of this broadcast, set the intention for the changes that are coming in, for what's happening next, segment intending, setting intention for the next chapter, for the next segment that you're stepping into, being intentional about that. Because again, you're co-creating. So if you're co-creating, don't leave your part out. Set the intention for the story that you would want. One of the methods that I heard today that I want to share with the collective that I thought was brilliant was sometimes when you're trying to figure out what story to tell in particular circumstances, and you want to make sure that it's a good story that you're telling yourself, or that you're, or a good intention that you're setting for yourself, you can think of your best friend, or your best auntie, or your best godparent, or your best teacher, or your best coach. What is it that you'd want them to tell you in this particular situation? Identify that and then tell it to yourself. Journal it to yourself. Set the intention yourself so that you are getting the best advice that you can, so that you can understand what story, what new affirmation, what new intention you want to set for this particular situation in your life. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was brilliant. Another thing that I heard that I was listening today that helps with this letting go of the fantasy, but working with what's in front of you and setting the intention for what's in front of you was imagining that the future you, if the future you was speaking to you about what's going on now and letting you know what's going to be happening in your future, that they're speaking life into you and that they're saying to you, It's all good. You might be broke right now. It might be a little tough right now, but it's all setting you up for your next major win. It's all on the horizon. You don't know what's coming up next, but I do. And let me tell you, you about to blow up. You about to blow up. So hold tight, ride the wave. Ride the wave. Keep going because it's right over the horizon. And so envisioning your future self talking to you now, kind of coaching you through it. So those are kind of two methods that I heard today that I was like, huh. If you're new to this work, you might think, oh, that's silly. But if you're into this work like I am, you're like, I might have to try that. I might have to try that. And so that's kind of the two methods that I've seen today and that I've heard about today that really help your mind to be flexible in its expectations and to kind of let go of what your mind fully expects it to be and allow for things to be a little bit different, allow for things to be more positive, allow for things to be more affirmative, especially during times like we are right now where change is happening fast. Yeah. Okay. I talked about it a little bit ago where I said your mind can be upset and resistant to the change when things don't go as expected, right? And so when things are moving fast, like things are happening right now, you have to be able to ebb and flow and be a little bit uh, agile in the movement of things because rigidness ends up getting you hurt. But that doesn't mean your mind still be upset about it. Your might still be upset. And so this is a process of identifying that, being okay with it, and coaching yourself through it and soothing your mind, soothing your inner child and saying, I know, I know, I know. It's a little bit annoying, but it's all a setup for a comeback. It's all a setup for something greater. It's all working out for whatever you have to, however you coach yourself and talk yourself through the flexibility of the mind that's necessary during major times and portals and changes and eclipses and things that we're dealing with. Um, in this period, primarily in April and May. Don't know what's happening for June as yet, but April and May have been heavy with a lot of fast moving energy and changes. Yeah. Another thing that I've been thinking about recently, and that a lot of has been around, has been being open to the adventure and the wisdom of the soul, you know, and that it's hard for the mind to conceive the soul's wisdom. Because as I said, the mind is kind of very limited and programmed into, but the soul and the wisdom of the soul is wide and vast. So sometimes when the soul knows exactly where we're going, exactly what we're doing, the mind can't comprehend it and can be a little bit scared. But building that relationship and that trust between your mind and your soul, that triangulation of alignment, you know what I mean? Mind, body, soul, mind, body, spirit. That triangulation of alignment will allow you ultimately, the goal is to be open to the adventure, to be open to the adventure and the wisdom and the guidance and the support and the support and the love and the guidance of the soul. And that is the ideal state of the mind, to be flexible and trusting and open to that warmth, wisdom, guidance of the soul, the sun, being open to the sun, the pull and the call to growth, call to ascension from your soul. Okay. A lot of times we're called to choose a path that we didn't expect, to step into roles that we didn't expect to have to step into, to called into certain responsibilities and certain chapters in our lives that we didn't expect. Sometimes this means you have to take on a role at work because a leader has stepped down and now you have to step up. Sometimes this means that you're having a new baby and you didn't really expect to have another baby at this time or to have a baby at all. And now you're pregnant and now you're being called to step into motherhood, or you're being called to step into fatherhood, or you're being called to step into fatherhood, or you're being called to step into fatherhood. You're being called to step into the masculine head of a household. You've had a parent die and now you are the head of the household. A lot of times our path deviates into ways and we're called into roles that we didn't necessarily expect, but we have to step up. And your mind can be so resistant to this shaking up of the path. But again, it goes back to letting go of the expectation of what you thought it was going to be, of the fantasy of what you was going to be, and look at what you're facing in front of you and being confident of the path that your soul is calling you through. Cheers. Clink, clink, clink. Lemon water for the doll. Keeping that throat chakra lubricated. Had a couple sips of this red wine and I'm feeling it. So back to the H2O for the doll. Mhm. Right? Called to choose a path that your mind didn't expect. Mind's resistance and upset because it was committed and attached to another path, to an old idea. You thought you was going over here. You thought you was headed straight to college. You thought you was going straight to that new job. You thought you was going straight overseas. You thought you was, you were going to get into that program and be gone right away. And there's roadblocks and there's hurdles and there's detours. And now you upset, got an attitude, pissed off. Understandably so. But there's a level of trust in the unfolding and the guidance and the support and the path that your soul has laid out for your life, that your mind has to learn to be flexible around and trust. And this was an issue for me this week. I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm not even gonna hold you. Okay. A need to be nimble and light on its feet, to change its story and new path, to pivot in response to the soul's guidance. The mind, the necessity of the mind, the work of the mind is to be nimble and responsive to the soul's guidance, to be able to pivot in response to the soul's guidance, the intuition's guidance. This is hard. This is hard work for the mind, but this is when you start really get into this spiritual journey and spirituality, these kind of parsed out, nuanced aspects of being a human, being awakened, being woke. Woke is not what the politicians would have you say, uh, social media activism and, you know, subtweeting people on Twitter, and that's woke culture. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Being woke, being awakened, being aligned, being in ascension is about understanding the relationship and the triangulation of the body, soul, and mind, the alignment of the three, and doing the work and the work for each and understanding the signatures of each. When things are going well, the signatures of what that looks like, and when things are not going well, the signatures of what that doesn't look like. I'm going to do that series on my Instagram and on the community tab here on YouTube. I'm going to explain a little bit about what it looks like, the signature aspects of what it looks like when you are in that triangulated alignment, body, soul, mind, and when you're out of alignment and the signature aspects of misalignment. So, if you're interested in anything like that, go ahead and subscribe to my Instagram and make sure you're paying attention, subscribed here on YouTube, and I will push that out at different intervals um, on the different channels. Okay. So the need to be nimble and light on its feet and change its story, change its path at any time. This is an aspect of co-creating, to be able to change your story, to be able to change your path, to be able to jump timelines, to change your belief systems, to change your perspectives. This is the work of the mind, and this is also the work of the spiritual journey, to understand that that is at your disposal. And not only understand that it's at your disposal, have the transferable skills and the tools to employ at your disposal to move you in the direction that you see fit as it relates to your mindsets and your beliefs and your timelines and your stories, the reinvention of self, the new stories about who you are, what you want in your life, and how your life is to unfold. It is a story that you tell yourself that you have the authority to craft. You're not the only authority. You are co-creating with the divine. You are co-creating with destiny. You are co-creating with the spirit, but you definitely have a place to decide to design the new story and the new identities that you'd like to embody. And so your mind has to be super flexible, going back to, as we said, letting go of these expectations, letting your mind being flexible in the soul's, in understanding and executing the soul's guidance. Seeing 55, 55 on the clock if you're into numbers like I am. So getting the mind to let go of resistance to this new path, to this new story, to this new identity, whether it's something that you've crafted yourself or whether it's something you're being called to. And I believe right now all of us are being called to new paths, new ways of doing things. The fear mongering side looks like AI is going to take all of our jobs. Nobody wants to work. The sky is falling. What we about to do? That's the negative side of this change that we're being called through. Loneliness is an epidemic. Depression is an epidemic. That's the fear-mongering side of the changes that we're being called to. But the more intentional, affirmative side of what we're being called to is, okay, what is the new story? What is the new story that I want to tell myself? What is the new story and the new vision that I want to craft for my life? What is it that I love now? What is it that lights me up now that I want to step into? What story do I need to tell myself to be able to get the courage and the clarity and the confidence? There go the three C's of the intention of tonight. Courage, clarity, and confidence. That was the intention that we set for tonight's live. What is the story that I need to tell myself to get the courage, clarity, and confidence to step into the new path, not that has been imposed on me, but the one that I want to design for myself. Now that things are in upheaval and things are shifting, now is the time for me to design something and try to step into it with the courage, confidence, and clarity that I can muster for myself, that I can create for myself. That is what telling a new story is. That is what the spiritual journey is about. That is what ascension is about. Coming into full command and authority over your life, scared as you might be. It's easy to blame. It's easy to be under slavery. It's easy to be under command of your parents or of your boss or of your professor or of your religion or of your husband or of your wife or of society. Of There's a bunch of things that we could blame for our bondage, for our bondage. But the spiritual journey is about getting on the path to liberation. And as nice as that might sound, freedom, liberation, I do what I want to do. As nice as that may sound, there is a lot of responsibility that comes with that because you have to design, you have to envision, you have to dream, you have to play, you have to work, you have to put together, you have to build, you have to create funnels, you have to create systems, you have to be accountable, you have to be disciplined, you have to be focused. You have to know when to rest. You have to know when to chill. You have to know when to joy. You have to know when to bliss. You have to have that coherence between your masculine and your feminine aspects seamlessly or almost seamlessly, knowing when you're hitting the rumble strip and coming back into alignment, knowing when you're veering out of your lane and you're feeling the vibration in your steering wheel and coming back into alignment, knowing how to seamlessly interplay between those two aspects of yourself, the masculine builder and the feminine envisioner and player, and coming into coherence and being accountable for your own authority and governing your own life. That's a lot of responsibility. So you can't take a spiritual ascension journey lightly and think it's fun and games. It is. But just know that you're called into responsibility and how to soothe your mind, ground yourself, trust yourself, love yourself, and take the next logical, the next right, the next feel good, aligned step into the unknown. Oh, it's unknown. You set the intention, but there's an aspect of the unknown that you are facing every day. And you have to be able to have a nimble mind, as we talked about. You have to let go of expectation, as we talked about. You have to trust the guidance. You have to trust the guidance, the guidance of your soul, the love of your soul, that your soul will never lead you astray. And you have to be tuned in so that you can actually discern and hear that guidance that comes through your what? Where your guidance come through? Your intuition. Cheers. Clink, 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 clink. This is what I've been working through this week. Now, I share these videos. I talk about this stuff so that whether you are watching this now or whether you're watching this a year from now or whether you're watching this 10 years from now, I share this information when it is timely for you. And so if you're a part of the replay gang, drop this emoji in the chat. Let us know that you're paying attention, that you're with the collective, that you're learning from the collective wisdom of the IT'S KELLS community. And if you are watching us live, so appreciate you. It's a Friday night kickback, as we do, as the community does. And yeah, let me have a little quick look through my notes. I think that is what I wanted to share with you guys tonight, and the lessons and the gems and just the introspection and the depth that I've been working with this week. And it's helpful for me to look back at my notes. I take my notes in my phone. So whenever something dawns on me, I just put a little note in my phone and just to remind myself of what I'm working through during the week. And then at the end of the week, I have a little running list of, oh, this is what I was working through this week. This week, I didn't do a lot of journaling, written journaling, which you guys know I love, but I did a little writing in my phone, just being on the move a little bit and just being a little bit shaking things up a little bit and getting my routine a little bit shaken up. But I share these things because I believe it's helpful for the collective. And it's also helpful for me to articulate and to use my voice because that was one of the directions that I received from the divine on my journey. Use my voice, amplify my voice, speak and share. And those that need to hear it will hear it. I do these videos so you know you're not out here alone in this sometimes crazy living, loving, dating, working, leveling up, parenting world. If this is your first time here, I'd love to have you subscribe, hit that like button, leave a comment. And if you're an oldie but a goodie good looking out, it's so good to see familiar faces in the comments and familiar faces in my DMs and familiar faces over on IG and TikTok and here on YouTube. And with that being said, I feel like that's it for us tonight. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in and sharing with the collective wisdom of the It's Kels community. Bye, guys.